Yes, so today we are going to discuss about a new topic called clothing. Called what? Clothing. So under clothing we are going to discuss about permanent stitches. Permanent?
Stitches.
What is a stitch? I hope you've learned in grade 4. What is a stitch? A stitch is?
Stitches.
A stitch is? Oh, I've repeated myself. A stitch is a single turn of the thread in knitting. Is a single turn of a thread in knitting. So clothes we wear, the clothes that we wear are joined by what we call stitches. They are joined by stitches. So the stitches are made by use of a sewing machine. A sewing machine. Cherehani. Sindio? They are used by use of what? A sewing machine. We can also make some stitches using our hands. And needle together with what? Hand, needle and thread. Hand, needle and thread. So we have permanent stitches in sewing. What are permanent stitches in sewing? What are permanent stitches in sewing? Permanent stitches are used to join two pieces of materials or two pieces of the garment together permanently. Together permanently. They do not need to be removed. For example, ukiangalia hiyo shati yangu hapo hivyo, it has been joined together by use of what? Stitch permanently. Ukiangalia my pocket hapa, it has also been joined by what? Stitch permanently. Na wamesema nini? They do not need to be removed. Then we have types of permanent stitches. Types of permanent stitches. Types of permanent stitches. We have 3 types of permanent stitches. We have how many types? 3 types of permanent stitches. Number 1 is called what? Joining stitches. Say joining stitches. Joining stitches. Number 2 is called what? Embroidery. Embroidery. This one is called what? Embroidery. Embroidery is also called what? Decorative. Decorative stitches. Decorative stitches. Then number 3 we have what we call knitting. We have what we call what? Knitting stitches. Mohammed. We have number 3 what we call knitting. Knitting stitches. Knitting stitches. Then let's discuss each as we continue. We have what we call joining stitches. Joining stitches. Joining. Joining stitches. So joining stitches is used to hold a piece of, this one is used to hold a piece of fabric together permanently. It is used to hold a piece of fabric together permanently. It is used to hold a piece of fabric together permanently. Acha tuandike hapo hivyo. Joining stitches is used to hold this one is used to hold a piece of fabric, a piece of fabric together permanently. Then we have two examples of what? Joining stitches. We have two examples of joining stitches. Then we have examples of joining stitches are what we call back stitch and over sewing stitch. Say back stitch, over sewing stitch. Those are the two stitches of, those are the two examples of joining stitches. We have back stitch and over sewing stitch. We have back stitch and also over sewing. Over sewing stitch. Then another type is embroidery stitch, or what we call decorative. Embroidery or decorative stitch. Embroidery or decorative stitch. So they are mainly used to make decorative design on garments or material. They are mainly used to make decorative designs on garments or material. These ones are mainly used to make decorative designs on what? On garments and on garments or material. Example of decorative or embroidery stitches are what we call chain stem. Say chain stem. Chain stem. And we also have what we call satin. We have chain stem and we also have what we call satin. Then lastly we have what we call knitting. So the last type of permanent stitch or stitches is what we call knitting. Say knitting. Knitting. Knitting are used to prevent the raw edges. This one are used to prevent the raw edges of the garment from fraying. Of the raw garments from fraying. They also hems securely in a place. They also hems securely on a place. Examples of these are what we call blanket stitch, the one that is made along the blanket. We have blanket stitch, buttonhole stitch. We have buttonhole stitch. Ukiangalia kwa hiyo button, we have a stitch there. So such stitch is called what? Buttonhole stitch. Ukiangalia kama hapo, buttonhole stitch. This one is called what? Buttonhole stitch. We have another one called blanket stitch. Blanket stitch. The one that is made along the edge of the blanket. Then we have what we call loop stitch. We also have what we call loop stitch. Loop stitch. Loop stitch. Kama hiyo ni edge, utaona inakaa hapo hivyo wavelines. So by this time we are supposed to know the types of permanent stitches. First of all, you are supposed to know what is a stitch. A stitch is a single turn of the thread in knitting. Is a single turn of a thread in knitting. Then clothes that we wear have what we call stitches. They are joined together by stitches. Then we made stitches using sewing machines. All stitches are made by use of the sewing machines. Apart from sewing machines, we can also make stitches using what? We can also make some stitches using what? Our hands, by use of needles and thread. By use of needles and thread. Then we have permanent stitches. Permanent stitches are used to join two pieces of material together permanently. They are used to join two pieces of materials together permanently. And we have said that they do not need to be removed. They do not need to be removed. Then we have types of permanent stitches. Types of permanent stitches. We have three types of permanent stitches. Number one, we have what? What we call joining stitches.